Welcome to my gym. Today I'm going to go through a book that I absolutely adore. It's The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. It's part of his trilogy, The First Law, and it is literally one of the best series that you'll ever read in modern fantasy. And this is the first book in that trilogy. So I just wanted to go over what makes that book really good, or what potential weaknesses it has, and just give you an overall recommendation on whether you should read this book or not. Just to give you a brief summary, it's a grim dark fantasy. That means it's going to be gritty, there's going to be some violence, there's going to be a lot of warfare and engagement and action scenes. So it is that type of book as a broad summary. And if we're going to talk about the things that make any book great, we'll start with characters, and this book has one of the best sets of characters I've ever read. The main protagonist and the key kind of point of view character, Logan, he is fantastic. He has a wonderful character arc. He is flawed and funny, and you just love reading about him and following him through the story. And that doesn't mean there aren't any other characters. There are other supporting characters that are just as well written in their own unique way. There's Glockter, whose job description kind of gives away some of the surprise of him. There's a character called Giselle, who is a perfect foil to the main point of view character. And they're just so well written. They all have amazing character arcs and mini arcs throughout this first book. So this gets a phenomenal scoring from me. If we look at plot, this is probably the one weakness in this book. It's part of it, obviously part of a trilogy, so a lot of the setup for that series is done in this book. So it's not the most amazing plot, it's almost like a stereotypical hero's journey plot. And it's the key part of it is that it's so well written. You can write a cliche and you can write a trope, but if you write it well, it doesn't matter. You're going to enjoy this. So this aspect is a good score from my perspective. When you're looking at world building, there's no kind of tech, obviously, because of the fantasy. There's very little magic. There's not this massively complicated hard magic system to kind of learn. There's literally a wizard mentor who features prominently in the story, and a lot of his background and his storytelling arc will touch on magic and the world and the history of the kingdom, essentially. And touching on the kingdom itself, there are a variety of different factions and political groups that are causing friction between each other. So that all adds to this really rich world that you absolutely want to learn more about. So world building is a great score from my perspective. If we're going to talk about pace, this book just blasts past. It is such a well-written book that the pacing is excellent. From the first chapter all the way through to the end, it just goes so smoothly. There's hardly any kind of lulls, and there's not, even though the character point of view changes quite often in this book, there's not really this massively staggered approach. So I'd say the pace is phenomenal for this book. If you're going to talk about coolness side of this book, the main character is awesome. He will literally blow your socks off at certain points in the book, and it's just such a unique and interesting character that you can't not help be entertained by this one particular character. And there are moments within this book that are standout moments, those kind of wow moments that you really need to kind of stick in your mind for the series itself. So coolness, it gets a phenomenal score from me on that front. If you're going to talk about pull factor, which is something that I would describe as the kind of progression of the book and the story itself, there are always beats being hit in this book. Every chapter has something that's entertaining and engaging to kind of read about. All the characters have their own motivations and clear story plots and arcs so that they're trying to hit and achieve. So you know exactly what people's emotions are and motivations are, and that just brings out a really engaging and thrilling kind of story to drag you through this book. So in my mind, from a pull-through factor, it gets a phenomenal score as well. When it comes to emotion, There are definitely high and low beats in the story. You obviously build up a relationship with these characters and the side characters. So when things do go wrong and when things do go right, you absolutely do feel for these people. You really are invested with this group of travelers and adventurers, essentially. So this definitely gets a great scoring on my scale, essentially. And if we're talking about the ancillary stuff, complexity, it's a really easy book to read. Yeah, there are no, like I said, no hard magics. It's simply written, but that doesn't mean it's not witty and interesting. So it really is one of the highlights of this book, is how easy it is as a modern fantasy book to read. When it comes to length, I'll say it's a standard length. It's not going to take you forever to get through this, and you're not going to be disheartened if you picked up this book in a bookstore and looked at it and you would never think, oh, I'm never going to get through this. You will absolutely get through this book if you really get into it, and it's something that I want to kind of highlight, essentially. So if we're looking at all those various factors and giving a final score, it gets a 6.4 out of 7, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's S tier for me. It's one of the first books I ever recommend to anyone who's getting into the fantasy genre, and it's something that, like I said, I go back to quite often and reread. And I hope that you pick up this book if you haven't read it. And if you have read it, let me know where you think my ratings fall on these various aspects of the book. Just to kind of repeat, it's that 1 to 7 scale where we're looking at abysmal, poor, limited, decent, good, great, and phenomenal. And this is where this book's essentially fallen on each of the various sectors. And yeah, just let me know what you think. Thank you for listening to this, and I look forward to doing the next one. Cheers, cheers.